Hello and welcome to another Who's He video podcast covering topics that we wouldn't normally discuss on our audio show. Last year, the world of Doctor Who was shattered with the loss of legendary monster actor Hamilton Prickwillow, who sadly passed away. His grateful family, while glad at his passing, were also left bereft, as he left his entire fortune to the charity Currently Unemployed Neither Talented, which supports out-of-work film and TV extras. Now desperate for money, Prickwillow's family had been forced to sell off family heirlooms, which is where Hamilton's son, Dingleberry, approached us at Who's He. Having arranged to meet us at a motorway service station, he told us that while rifling through his dead father's possessions, they discovered a film canister which contained footage from the long-forgotten 1970s BBC TV series Aren't We Bloody Clever at the BBC, which contained a feature on Hamilton whilst he was making the Doctor Who story The Androids of Tara. Of course, we were intrigued and we paid the Prickwillow family a tidy sum for this unique footage. But we did begin to wonder why there was no record of this footage ever being aired. However, it became immediately apparent why. During the interview, Hamilton appeared to be in a very mischievous mood and didn't seem to care what he said about anyone or anything. So as no one watches this video podcast, we decided to air this unique footage as we think the chances of any lawsuits heading our way would be zilch. However, the quality of this footage is fairly poor and is unfortunately in black and white, so you've been warned. So sit back and enjoy this piece of TV history from 1978 with the never seen before Aren't We Bloody Clever at the BBC, with Hamilton Prickwillow interviewed by the darling of the BBC canteen, Carlton Asked Too Many Questions. On tonight's show, we look at Mrs. Slocum's pussy, just how does Larry Grayson shut that door, and David Bellamy, why? But first we look at Doctor Who and how do they bring to life those monsters that send our children scurrying behind the sofa. We spoke to a specialist in this field, Hamilton Prickwillow, who is filming the latest series of Doctor Who starring Tom Baker and Mary Tamm. So Hamilton, another Doctor Who serial for you. Is this any different to the others?
No, not at all, not at all. It's been like coming home, really. I've been working with this crew on and off for the last few years, so really they're like family. In fact, I see more of them than I do my own, which is a good thing, to be honest, because I can't abide mine.
You don't miss your family when you're on location, then?
No.
Is it the long hours that makes your family unsympathetic?
No, they accept it. I just don't like them. Parasites, really.
Have any of your co-stars suffered the same fate with their families?
Well, for some of them it's quite the opposite, really. When I was working with John Pertwee a few years ago, he would always bring his family on location, at the BBC's expense, of course. He's a lovely man, and I'd lot to thank him for, but Christ, he's tight. He's really tight.
How do you mean?
Well, for example, the last time I worked with him, he tried to pay his hotel bill with Green Shield stamps. Unbelievable. The hotel manager tried to reason with him, but John managed to con him into believing that was how the BBC paid him. Not far from the truth, really.
So the pay at the BBC isn't that good, then?
No, it's dreadful.
So why do you keep coming back?
Well, I do get an enormous sense of pride working on these Doctor Who serials. I mean, on this particular story, I'm playing a character called the Taran Woodbeast. It's probably the worst costume I've ever worn. So it's down to me to bring these monsters to life.
So when you have a challenge like this, how do you make it scary?
With great difficulty. On this occasion, I don't have a lot to work with. So I have to get into the mindset of the character.
The mindset?
Yeah, yes, you have to understand how the monster's mind works. What's their motivation for what they do. So for this story, I've imagined that the Taran Woodbeast doesn't actually like trees. So he's constantly pissed off all of the time.
Sorry, Hammy, you can't swear on television.
Oh, sorry, I do apologise. but don't call me Hammy. I can't abide being called Hammy. Peter Miles called me Hammy once, so I ran over his toupee. Twice.
Right. So, does this imaginary fear of trees help your performance?
To be honest, it's not imaginary. I can't abide the bloody things. I had an accident with a tree a few years ago, which I don't like to talk about.
Well, right, let's move on then.
Well, let's just say it was dark and my trousers accidentally fell down.
Well, as I was trying to say, let's move on. I want to ask you what it's like to work on location, what seems to be quite a hot costume.
Well, it's, one gets used to it, really. Sometimes it can be embarrassing, however. A few years ago I played the crinoid monster in the Siege of Doom. It's quite well regarded these days, but I felt entirely ridiculous shuffling about in the grounds of a stately home, dressed in what was essentially a latex bag. I couldn't see where I was going, and while the crew tried to keep the public away, they couldn't prevent this little 5-year-old boy from continually kicking me in between takes. One kick called me straight up the family jewels. Right up! So I really didn't need this, did I? So I managed to extricate myself from the carpet and chased him through the grounds waving a branch at him.
But he was only 5 years old.
I don't have time for that. I'm an actor. And trying to menace Tom Baker with testicles swollen to the size of cantaloupes is not an easy task.
How do you get on with Tom Baker? I hear he can be quite difficult to work with.
Who, Tom? Never. Never. He's a bloody wonderful man to work with, and he can hold his drink. Sometimes drinking is the only thing that can get you through a terrible production. For example, during the production of The Mask of Mandragora, Tim Pickersmith was boring everyone to tears with stories about how he was off to make a film called Aces High. He kept going on about how exciting it was to be working with Malcolm McDowell and Christopher Plummer. Well, if there's one thing I can't stand, is an actor who is full of himself. So anyway, I was getting fed up with Pickersmith's bragging, and Tom could tell I was getting the needle. So during the break for lunch one day, Tom and I got absolutely smashed on neat Cinzano and Watney's Red Barrel, and we both decided to keep Pickersmith quiet. So we broke into the costume department and changed his tights for something a little bit smaller. So when he came onto set, he was uncharacteristically quiet, all due to his now restricted package. So by constricting his bollocks, we also stopped him talking bollocks.
Hamilton, you must stop swearing. So, Hamilton, I can see you're about to be called onto set, so my last question to you is this. You have been up until now very much connected to Doctor Who. Is there anything else on the horizon for you?
Well, Carlton, I'm glad you asked me. I'm not supposed to talk about this, but I've just signed a contract to star as Chewbacca's father in the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Wow.
I know. It's very exciting, very exciting. And I really feel this is going to be my big break into American television, because that's where true success and fame lies. TV in Great Britain is all very well, but the budgets are minuscule, and I'm fed up working with and in ridiculously cheap costumes. So I'm really looking forward to working with real professionals.
Isn't that a bit insulting to your BBC colleagues?
No, it isn't. They do their best, but sometimes that just isn't good enough. And someone with my talent needs to be able to spread their wings. So I think Mr. Steven Spielberg will certainly enable me to do that.
You mean George Lucas?
Who?
Hamilton Prickwillow, thank you very much.
It was a pleasure for you.